stupid to be mad about the boy. I'm so ashamed of it, but must admit the sleepless nights I've had about the boy. On the silver screen, he melts my foolish heart in every single scene. Although I'm quite aware that here and there are traces of the cat about the boy. Lord knows I'm not a fool, girl. I really shouldn't care. Lord knows I'm not a schoolgirl. In the fury of her first affair, will it ever cloy this odd diversity of misery and joy? I'm feeling quite insane and young again, and all because I'm mad about the boy. So if I could employ a little magic that would finally destroy this dream that pains me and enchains me, but I can't because I'm mad. I'm mad about the
Volare, oh, cantare, oh, let's fly way up to the clouds, away from the maddening crowds. We can sing in the glow of a star that I know of, where lovers enjoy peace of mind. Let us leave the confusion and all disillusion behind. Just like birds of a feather, a rainbow together we'll find. Volare, oh, e cantare, oh. No wonder my happy heart sings. Your love has given me wings. Penso che io sogno così non ritorni mai più. Mi dipinge con le mani e la faccia di blu. Poi d'improvviso tenido dal vento rapido e incominciavo a volare nel cielo infinito. Volare, oh, oh, e cantare, oh.
The old hometown looks the same as I step down
from the train, and there to meet me is my mama and papa. Down the road I look, and there runs Mary, hair of gold and lips like cherries. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home. Yes, they'll all come to meet me, arms reaching, smiling sweetly. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home. The old house is still standing, though the paint is cracked and dry. And there's that old oak tree that I used to play on. Down the lane I walk with my sweet Mary, hair of gold and lips like cherries. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home. Then I awake and look around me at four gray walls that surround me, and I realize, yes, I was only dreaming. For there's a God, and there's a sad old portrait. On and on we'll walk at daybreak. Again I'll touch the green, green grass of home. Yes, they'll all come to see me in the shade of that old oak tree, as they lay me 'neath the green, green grass of home.
He loved the road, the kind that stretched for miles with nothing but bushland, open skies, and the promise of somewhere new around the next bend. He loved the quiet towns, the roadside stops, the camp chairs outside of the motorhome, and the freedom that came with simply packing up and going. Australia became more than a home to him. It became part of who he was. And perhaps that's why those who travel understand something important, that life was never really about the destination. It was about the people beside you, the stories collected along the way, and the memories made between one place and the next. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ali Dennison, and I'm an independent celebrant, and along with my colleagues here at Parkside Funerals, we are honoured to guide Clive's celebration of life today. On behalf of Clive's family, thank you all for being here as we gather to honour and celebrate the life of Clive Colin Bernard Granger. Today, we especially hold close Clive's family, Wayne, Dale, Philip and Kathy, along with his grandchildren, great-grandchildren and extended family. Today is about remembering a man who lived a very full life, a man of humour, resilience, practicality, loyalty and quiet generosity. A man who worked hard, travelled widely, loved deeply, and always seemed to have a story. Before we share more of Clive's story today, I want to mention something quite special. In his later years, Clive took the time to write down memories and reflections from his life, in his own words, his own stories, and his own observations. It became kind of a life book, not polished or fancy, but honest, very much like Clive himself. Within those pages, he spoke about his childhood in London during the war years, migrating to Australia, raising his boys, working hard, travelling the country, playing music, and the people that he loved along the way. He also wrote with real honesty about hardship, grief, ageing, and resilience. But through it all, there was gratitude, humour, and a quiet pride in the life that he had built. One of the titles he gave to his reflections was that he wasn't bad for a Cockney boy. And perhaps that captures Clive perfectly. As Clive himself once summed it up, plenty of ups and downs, but overall life has been great. And perhaps there is no better place to begin than there. I would like to invite Clive's son Dale to come forward to share his dad's eulogy on behalf of the family. Thank you, Dale.
Today we're here to remember Dad and to celebrate a life that was long, full and anything but ordinary. Dad was born on the 2nd of August 1935, and from the very beginning life threw a few challenges his way. At just 18 months old he was mauled by a dog. It's a tough way to start life. But looking back, it feels almost fitting that Dad was a fighter from the very start. He grew up in England during the war in times that were hard and uncertain, especially for a young boy. Those years shaped him, they made him resilient, practical and able to get on with things when life wasn't easy. Between the ages of 12 to 18, Dad took up boxing. He was trained by his father. Boxing taught him a few things: discipline, toughness and how to stand his ground. Lessons that stayed with him long after he left the ring. In 1953, Dad and his mum and dad made a brave decision to immigrate to Australia, leaving behind everything familiar for a new life. Not long after arriving here, he met Kay, who became his wife and the love of his life. Together they built a home, a family and a solid life based on hard work and loyalty. Dad served his country in the Commonwealth Military Forces. He never made a big deal of it. Service was simply something you did. He worked as a plumber and he took real pride in his work. He did the job properly. You turn up when you say you will. You don't cut corners. They were just work habits. They were life lessons. And then there was music. Dad was a drummer. He understood rhythm and timing, and in many ways that summed him up perfectly. He didn't need to be front and centre, but he kept everything steady and moving along. Dad was proud of his 4 sons, Craig, Wayne, myself and Philip. He wasn't big on speeches or emotional talks. Instead, he taught by example. You watched how he worked, how he handled setbacks and how he kept going, and that's how you learned. He later became a grandfather and a great-grandfather, roles he carried with quiet pride. He might not have made a fuss, but family always mattered to him. He loved seeing the next generations grow, living proof that everything he worked for continued on. At 50, Dad had a quadruple bypass. Now, for many people that would have slowed him down. For Dad, it just became another hurdle to get through. That surgery gave us more than 40 extra years with him, years that we are incredibly grateful for. Now in 2002, as we know, we lost our mum Kay, a heartbreak Dad carried quietly. So the next year he bought a motorhome in Albury, and I was fortunate enough to travel with him back to Melbourne from there. Spent a bit of time bonding. It's been a while. He certainly didn't like it when I took over driving, because I told him the motorhome can do over 80 k's an hour. But he, as we've heard before, he travelled around Australia, a bold move that showed his independence and courage. And along the way he met Barbara, who became his partner and companion until her passing in 2024. Together they shared good years, friendships and companionship. This relation introduced Dad to Julie, who's come today, and Dad treated Julie as a daughter he never had. In 2005, Dad survived a ruptured aorta, something few people walk away from. And true to form, he didn't complain, he just carried on. That really sums him up, I guess. Dad showed up, he endured, he kept going. To us, he was steady, reliable and quietly strong. His love wasn't loud, but it was always there. Today, we're sad to say goodbye, but we're also incredibly lucky. We had Dad for 90 years as a father, a grandfather and a great-grandfather. And his legacy lives on through us all. Dad, thank you for everything you gave us. Rest easy. We'll carry you with us always. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Through Dale's words, we've already heard so much about the resilience, strength and determination that shaped Clive throughout his life. And while Clive's journey began in wartime England, it was here in Australia that he truly built the life that he became so proud of. Through hard work, family, music, friendship and adventure. As Dale shared, Clive became a plumber and maintenance engineer, though in truth he was someone who could fix just about anything. In his own modest way, he wrote, "I was pretty good at fixing faults with machinery of all types. That included air conditioning, heating systems, boilers, hospital machinery, and whatever needed repairing." He worked incredibly hard throughout his life. During the years when the boys were young, Clive spent weekdays working in Smithton while the family lived in Waverley. The boys didn't see a great deal of him during those few years because he was doing what needed to be done. He was making sure his family had a better life. In 1966, the family moved to Kings Meadows, into the home that remained in the family for decades and is still owned today by Wayne. Clive eventually worked for himself, plumbing houses in Smithton and Scottsdale, before beginning one of the proudest chapters of his working life, which was at St Vincent's Hospital. Initially, he was called in to solve maintenance problems, and he was soon asked to stay full-time, remaining there until 1987. He became a member of the Hospital Engineers Association and attended conferences around Australia, always eager to learn more. When asked about his greatest achievements, Clive simply said, "Working full-time at St Vincent's Hospital and the boys all having good jobs." Success wasn't about status for Clive, it was about his family. But work was only one side of him. Music was his other great passion. He played drums in bands, brass bands, hotels, weddings, festivals and Anzac Day marches. He played with the Launceston City Brass Band and he was part of the Johnny Long Trio during the 1970s. He even performed at the Princess Theatre and once played with a symphony orchestra. Music brought him enormous joy, and just as importantly, it helped support his family during the hard times. As he said, "What I earned at nights playing drum helped me pay the bills." He also served as the president of the Musicians Union in Launceston and president of the Croatia Soccer Club. One of the great stories from Clive's life was how he met Kathy. How he met his wife, Kay. Kathy, you're having a giggle down there. Sorry, I'm looking at you. Clive used to go dancing on Wednesday and Friday nights. One evening, he finally asked a girl he'd noticed for some time to have a dance with him. And her response was, "It's about bloody time." And Clive said, "That's how I ended up marrying her." Later, reflecting on their relationship, he wrote, "The wife I didn't realise had the hots for me, but I was slow on the uptake." Family remained at the centre of Clive's life, and he was enormously proud of his boys, grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Life wasn't always easy. Clive described one of life's greatest challenges simply as raising 4 children and managing the bills on a single income. But despite the hardships, there was joy too. Some of Clive's happiest memories were family holidays at the shack in Swansea, a shack that he had helped build himself. He remembered fishing, shooting rabbits, putting in pots for crayfish, cooking on an open fire, and most importantly, the happiness that was found in my children's smiles. There were boats, caravans, motorhomes, road trips, and countless kilometres across Australia. After Kay passed in 2002, while living at Rowella on the Tamar River, Clive sold up, he brought a motorhome and he hit the road. That decision opened another significant chapter of his life. While travelling, he met Barbara Hoare. Initially, they travelled separately in their own motorhomes before eventually travelling together for many years. Together, they spent 6 months on the road and 6 months in Pakenham, exploring Australia extensively. They shared a love of the outback and of adventure, and Clive later wrote, "Everything I have done, I have enjoyed. I have had a good life, and I've made some great friends along the way." Sadly, Barb became ill with dementia and Alzheimer's, and Clive made the decision to come home to Tasmania. Launceston had always felt like home, but in 2024 he moved to Wynyard to be near Philip, Kathy, the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. And as many here would know, it didn't take Clive long to become part of the community. He enjoyed his breakfast club gatherings that would catch up each Wednesday mornings. He quickly made friends and collected local knowledge, usually before anyone else had heard it. He loved to chat, he loved to gossip, and he loved being connected to people. Sunday afternoons became a special ritual. Clive would arrive at Pip and Kathy's at around 4 o'clock with his one stubby, ready for hours of crib, dinner, conversation and competition. Apparently no one had to let him win because he usually did anyway. Even in Wynyard Care, where he moved earlier this year, Clive quickly formed friendships and regular crib games with Don Ryan and Glenn Dixon. The staff came to know his routines too. His porridge had to be hot, his meals had to be hot, and pasta and rice were absolutely unacceptable. It's only flour and water, why would you eat that? Throughout his reflections, Clive returned often to the values that guided his life: hard work, helping others, and living within your means. He said if we desired something, we diligently saved for it. I never relied on borrowing money from others. And perhaps one of the most revealing things he wrote was, I was the one doing the acts of kindness for lots of people that I helped along the way, which is what I enjoyed doing. That generosity and willingness to help others seems to have followed him everywhere. Clive also endured enormous heartbreak throughout his life, losing Kay, his eldest son, Craig, grandchildren, siblings, Barb, and his beloved dog Agro. Yet despite life's losses, he somehow remained grateful for the life that he had lived. When asked how he would like to be remembered, Clive answered simply, hopefully a good person, father, grandfather and great-grandfather. By all accounts, Clive, that is exactly how you'll be remembered. We will now take a few moments to reflect on Clive's life through some photographs, moments captured across 90 remarkable years. Such beautiful memories there. We will now take a few moments to reflect as part of today's farewell, to acknowledge Clive's service. Clive held great respect for mateship, community and remembrance, and it's fitting that his tribute forms part of today's service. I now invite Dale and Philip forward to conduct the RSL Poppy service.
They shall not grow old, as we are left Well, old age. Age shall not weary them, nor years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
these past months. Thank you also to everyone here today for your presence, support, messages, friendship and love shown to the family during this difficult time. We now move into the moment of committal, the final formal words of farewell, where we entrust Clive to rest. As the final curtain closes on Clive's life, it will never close on his memory. We say our final goodbye as we commit the body of our loved one and friend to nature's keeping. Grateful for the life that has been lived and for all that their life has meant to each of us. We now say farewell and may you rest in peace. Tenderly, lovingly and reverently, we commit the spirit and the body of Clive to a more peaceful place. Clive, we give thanks for your life and for your 90 years of love, friendship and memories. Clive wrote, "I hope there is something in the book that you didn't know about me," and I think there probably was. But perhaps what stands out the most is not any one story, but the man himself. He was steady, he was capable, funny, independent, loyal, and deeply devoted to his family. And perhaps the final word should belong to Clive himself. He wrote, "Plenty of ups and downs, but overall, life has been great." Thank you, Clive. You are now reunited with the loved ones gone before you. Rest easy, and you didn't do so bad for a Cockney boy.